My mom said, "You're a failure. Your brother would never disappoint us like this." I paid their mortgage. He lives in their basement. I said, "You're right." Then I stopped being a failure with a checkbook. So here's the thing about being called a failure by someone whose mortgage you've been paying for 3 years. It hits different. I'm 32, been working in finance since I graduated. Not glamorous stuff, just steady corporate work. Analyzing budgets and making spreadsheets look pretty. Started at the bottom, worked my way up to senior analyst, got a decent salary and benefits. Nothing crazy, but comfortable. The kind of job where you don't stress about buying groceries or getting an oil change. My younger brother Danny is 28. He lives in my parents' basement, has for 6 years now. He's got a degree in communications that he's never used, works part-time at a sporting goods store, and spends most of his free time gaming or hanging with his buddies. My parents act like he's going through a rough patch. 6 years is not a patch. That's a lifestyle choice. But Danny's the baby, the surprise kid they had when I was 4, the one who could do no wrong even when he was doing literally everything wrong. I learned early that being the responsible older brother meant being invisible unless something needed fixing or someone needed money. Let me paint you a picture of how this whole thing started. About 5 years ago, my parents called me up, sounding stressed. Dad had just retired from his job at the post office. Mom hadn't worked in years, and their retirement savings weren't stretching as far as they'd hoped. They were looking at their mortgage payment every month like it was a death sentence. Their house isn't fancy, 3-bedroom ranch in a decent neighborhood, probably worth around $280,000, but they still owed about $190,000 on it because they'd refinanced twice over the years to pay for stuff. New roof, new HVAC, Danny's college tuition, that he wasted, medical bills, you name it. Their monthly payment was around $1,850 with taxes and insurance. I asked the obvious question during that phone call, what about Danny? He was 23 at the time, living rent-free in their finished basement, working his part-time gig. Surely he could chip in something, right? My mom got real quiet. Then she hit me with the line that I'd hear 1,000 variations of over the next few years. Well, Danny's still trying to figure things out. He's not in a position to help right now, but you're doing so well at your job. Translation: Danny gets a free pass because he's Danny. You get the bill because you made the mistake of being responsible. I was making about $68,000 at the time, after taxes, rent on my apartment, student loans, car payment, and basic living expenses. I wasn't exactly swimming in cash, but I also wasn't drowning. And these were my parents. You help family, right? That's what you're supposed to. So I started sending them $1,200 a month, not the full mortgage payment, but enough to make a serious dent. I figured it was temporary. Dad would adjust to retirement. They'd figure out their budget. Maybe Danny would get a full-time job and start contributing. I gave it 6 months in my head before things would balance out. That was 3 years ago. The $1,200 became routine. Every month, like clockwork, I'd transfer the money. My parents would send me a thank you text that got shorter and less enthusiastic as time went on. First month, it was a whole paragraph about how grateful they were and how they'd pay me back. By month 6, it was just, got it, thanks, bye. Year 2, it was nothing. The money just disappeared from my account and nobody acknowledged it anymore. Meanwhile, Danny's situation never changed. Still part-time at the sporting goods store, still living in the basement rent-free, still going out with his friends every weekend while I was eating meal prep and declining invitations to save money. I started asking questions around the 1-year mark. Casual stuff at first. How's Danny doing? Any luck with the job hunt? My mom would get defensive Immediately, he's applying places. The job market is tough. He's working on his resume. The excuses piled up faster than job applications. I pushed a little harder at 18 months, suggested maybe Danny could pay some rent. Even $400 a month would help. My dad actually laughed, said Danny needed to save money for when he moved out. I asked when that might be. Dad just shrugged. The thing that really killed me was watching them treat Danny like he was doing them a favor by existing. My mom would cook his favorite meals, do his laundry. My dad would slip him cash for going out. They bought him a newer used car when his old one died because he needs reliable transportation for work, the part-time job that was 15 minutes away. I was sending $1,200 a month to keep a roof over all their heads, and Danny was getting allowance money. I didn't say anything though. I just kept sending the money and quietly resenting every dollar. My apartment was fine, but nothing special. I drove a 10-year-old sedan that needed new brakes. I hadn't taken a real vacation in 2 years. My 401k contributions were lower than they should be for my age. But hey, at least my parents weren't losing their house. Around the 2-year mark, I got a promotion, senior analyst to lead analyst. Came with a $15,000 salary bump. I was excited. Finally, some breathing room. Maybe I could actually start saving for a down payment on a house. Maybe take that trip to Colorado I'd been planning. I made the mistake of mentioning the promotion at Sunday dinner. My parents congratulated me, seemed genuinely happy. Then my mom asked the question that should have been a red flag the size of Texas. So does this mean you can help us out a little more each month? I just stared at her. I'd been sending them $1,200 a month for 2 years. Never missed a payment, never complained. And the first thing she asked about my raise was whether she could have some of it. I'm already sending you over $14,000 a year, I said, keeping my voice level. That's a lot of money, my dad jumped in. We know and we appreciate it. But with inflation, everything costs more now. Property taxes went up. Utilities are higher. It would really help if you could bump it up to maybe $1,500. I looked at Danny, who was scrolling through his phone and eating the pot roast my mom had made special because it was his favorite. He didn't even look up. What about Danny contributing something? I asked. That's when my mom got that look, the one that said I'd crossed a line. Danny's not in the same position you are. He's still finding his way. He's 25, I said. He's been finding his way for 6 years. Maybe it's time he found it faster. My dad's face got red. Your brother is doing his best. Not everyone can be a hotshot finance guy. I wasn't a hotshot anything. I was a guy who showed up to work and did his job. But pointing that out would just make things worse. So I dropped it, told them I'd think about increasing the amount. Finished my dinner, drove home. I didn't increase the amount, kept it at $1,200. My parents didn't push it again, but I could tell they were disappointed. My mom's text got a little cooler. My dad stopped calling as much. Danny never noticed because Danny never paid attention to anything that didn't directly affect him. The breaking point came about 6 months ago. I'd been sending money for 2.5 years at that point, total of around $36,000 if you're counting. I wasn't counting, but my budget spreadsheet sure was. I went over for dinner on a Sunday. My parents seemed off, tense. I figured they'd had a fight or something. Happens in every marriage. I didn't think much of it until we sat down to eat. My mom had made this elaborate meal, roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, 3 different vegetables, homemade rolls. The kind of meal that takes hours to prep. The kind she usually only made for holidays or special occasions. That should have been my first clue something was up. We made small talk through dinner. Dad asked about work. I told him about a project I was leading. Mom asked if I was seeing anyone. I I said no. Hadn't had time for dating. Danny contributed nothing to the conversation. As usual, just shoveled food in his face and checked his phone every 30 seconds. After dinner, we moved to the living room. My mom brought out coffee and this fancy dessert she bought from the bakery. Another red flag I missed because I was too busy enjoying the first cake I'd had in months. Then my dad cleared his throat. That throat. Clear, that means something uncomfortable is about to be said. I knew that sound. I'd heard it before every awkward conversation we'd ever had. So we wanted to talk to you about something. He started. Here we go, I thought. They want more money. I was already mentally preparing my argument for why 1,200 was my limit. Your mom and I have been talking and we think it's time we had a serious discussion about your future. Wait, what? My future? I thought we were talking about their mortgage. My mom jumped in. We're worried about you. You're 32 years old and you're still alone in that apartment. No girlfriend. Working all the time. You never go out or have fun. I looked at her. I work hard because I have bills to pay, including helping you guys out every month. My dad waved that away like it was nothing. We appreciate that, but we're concerned you're not living your life. You need to focus on yourself more. Find someone. Start a family. This was rich coming from the people who'd been hitting me up for money for 2.5 years. But okay, maybe they had a point. Maybe I was working too much and not making time for personal stuff. Then my mom dropped the bomb. We think you're being selfish. I actually laughed. Couldn't help it. Selfish? How am I being selfish? You only think about yourself, she said, getting that righteous tone she used when she was about to say something completely unreasonable, but wanted it to sound reasonable. You work all the time. You never visit unless we ask. You don't help out around here. Your father needed help moving furniture last month, and we had to call the neighbors because you were too busy. I had been at a required work conference 3 states away. Ethan explained this. Apparently, that didn't count as a valid excuse. I send you money every month, I said slowly, trying to keep calm. A lot of money. Money I could be using for 1 million other things. My dad jumped in again. And we're grateful. But money isn't everything. We need your time and effort too. We need you to be present. I was present every Sunday for dinner. I called twice a week. I helped with yard work when they asked, and I was available. But none of that counted. Apparently, only the things I couldn't. Look at Danny, my mom said, and I knew instantly this was a mistake. He lives here. He helps out around the house. He's here when we need him. I turned to look at Danny, who was still on his couch scrolling through his phone. Danny lives in your basement, rent-free. He doesn't help with the mortgage. He doesn't pay for groceries. You do his laundry. He helps in other ways. My mom snapped. He keeps us company. He makes this house feel like a home. He's the one we can count on. And there it was, the golden child narrative. I've been living with my entire life just repackaged for my 30s. I send you $1,200 a month, I repeated, because apparently everyone had forgotten this fact. For 2.5 years. That's over $36,000. My dad actually rolled his eyes, like I was being petty for bringing up the literal tens of thousands of dollars I'd sent them. This is exactly what we're talking about, he said. You're always keeping score, always making everything about money. That's not what family does. I sat there trying to process what was happening. I was being accused of being selfish and only caring about money because I'd mentioned the massive amount of money I'd been giving them. The mental gymnastics required for that. Logic could win Olympic gold. What exactly do you want from me? I asked. My mom and dad exchanged a look. The kind of look that said they'd rehearsed This conversation, this wasn't spontaneous. This was planned. We want you to be more like your brother. My mom said finally. Time kind of stopped. For a second, I just stared at her. More like Danny. I repeated, making sure I'd heard right. Yes, Danny knows what's important. He prioritizes family. He's here for us. He doesn't make everything about money and career. I looked at Danny again. Still on his phone. Still in their basement. Still working part-time at age 28. Still contributing exactly $0 to the household that I was keeping afloat. Danny lives in your basement, I said, speaking slowly, like I was explaining to a child. He works part-time. He doesn't pay rent. He doesn't pay bills. He's doing none of the things adults are supposed to do. And you want me to be more like him? My dad's face was getting red again. Your brother is going through a transition period. For 6 years, he'll figure it out. My mom snapped. He just needs time and support, unlike you who just judges everyone and thinks you're better than us because you have a fancy job. A fancy job. My boring, stable corporate finance job that I'd worked hard to get and keep. The job that generated the money I sent them every month. That fancy job. I don't think I'm better than anyone, I said, staying calm. Even though I wanted to scream, I work hard. I pay my bills. I help you guys out because you asked me to. I don't know what else you want me to do. My mom stood up and I could see she was upset. Really upset. Her hands were shaking. We want you to be a better son, she said, her voice breaking. We want you to care about this family as much as we care about you. And then she said it, the thing that I'll probably remember for the rest of my life. You're a failure as you've disappointed us more than you know. Your brother would never treat us like this. The room went completely silent. Even Danny looked up from his phone. I felt something shift inside me. Not anger exactly, more like clarity. Crystal clear, cold clarity. I'd been sending them $1,200 a month, every month, for 2.5 years. I'd sacrificed vacations, new clothes, a newer car, savings, retirement contributions, dating, hobbies, and peace of mind. I'd done this without complaint, without asking for recognition, without making them feel bad about needing help. And I was a failure. I disappointed them. I wasn't as good a son as the man-child living in their basement playing video games on their dime. Okay, I said, standing up. My voice was calm, eerily calm. You're right. My mom looked confused. My dad frowned. Danny went back to his phone. Because this didn't affect him, so why care? I'm a failure, I continued. I've disappointed you. I'm selfish and I only care about money. You're absolutely right about all of it. My mom's expression softened. She thought I was agreeing with her, seeing the light, about to apologize and promise to do better. So I'm gonna stop being a failure, I said, starting now. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app right there in the living room. I canceled the automatic monthly transfer to my parents. $1,200 a month. Gone just like that. What are you doing? My dad asked. I am stopping being the failure son who only cares about money. You want me to be more like Danny? Done. I won't send you money anymore. I'll just exist and let you support me emotionally instead. My mom's face went white. You're cutting us off. I'm not cutting you off. I'm just stopping being the son you don't want. You said I'm a failure and Danny's better. So let Danny's version of success pay your mortgage. Let his company and helpfulness around the house keep the bank from foreclosing. I'm sure his presence and emotional support will really resonate with the mortgage company. My dad stood up, his face purple now. You can't be serious. Dead serious. You wanted me to be different. I'm different now. I'm the son who prioritizes family time over Money, just like you asked. I grabbed my jacket and headed for the door. My mom was crying. My dad was yelling. Something about being ungrateful. Danny was looking concerned now because he'd finally processed that something was actually happening. Wait, my mom called out. We didn't mean you should stop helping. We just meant you meant I should give you money and not expect any appreciation for it. I finished. You meant I should bankroll your lives while being told I'm a disappointment. I get it, but see, I'm not doing that anymore. You've got Danny now, the good son, the one who never disappoints. I'm sure he'll step up. I walked out, got in my car, drove home, and for the first time in 2.5 years, I felt like someone had lifted a piano off my back. The calls started the next day. Multiple calls from both parents. Voicemails ranging from angry to confused to pleading. I didn't answer any of them. I was busy being a failure who only cared about myself. Couldn't be bothered to answer the phone. Text messages poured in, long paragraphs about how I was being immature and dramatic, how they'd only been trying to help me, how I was taking everything the wrong way, how family doesn't just abandon each other over one little argument. One little argument. That's what they called it. Not them calling me a failure. Not them saying my unemployed basement-dwelling brother was better than me. Just a little argument. I responded to exactly one text. It was from my mom, and it said, we need to talk about this like adults. I wrote back, the mortgage payment is due on the 15th. You've got 2 weeks to figure it out. I'm sure Danny will help. Radio. Silence after that. For about 3 days. Then my dad called from a different number. I picked up without thinking. We need that money, he said. Immediately. No hello. No how are you. Just straight to business. I don't have money, I said calmly. I'm a failure. Remember? Failures don't have money to give away. Stop being childish. We have bills to pay. So do I. I've got bills I've been putting off for 2 years while I funded your retirement. Time to catch up. You're seriously going to let us lose our house over this? I'm not letting you do anything. You're both adults. You have a son living with you who could contribute. You have options. You're just mad that I'm not one of them anymore. He tried arguing, tried guilt-tripping, tried anger. I let him talk himself out and then said I had to go. Hung up, blocked that number. 2. The thing about not sending $1,200 a month is that you suddenly have $1,200 a month. Money I'd forgotten existed. I paid off my car that first month. Just straight up eliminated that payment. Felt amazing. Second month, I booked a weekend trip. Nothing crazy, just a nice hotel in the mountains and some hiking. First vacation I'd taken in years. Posted some photos online. My mom saw them. She sent me a text about how nice it must be to have money for vacations while your parents struggle. I didn't respond. Month 3, my parents tried a new approach. They sent Danny over to my apartment. He showed up on a Saturday morning looking uncomfortable. Hey, he said when I opened the door. Can we talk? I almost didn't let him in, but curiosity won. I wanted to hear what the golden child had to say. We sat in my living room. He looked around at my place, seemed surprised it was nice. Like he'd expected me to live in squalor or something. So mom and dad are pretty stressed, he started. I bet they're having trouble with the mortgage payment. They asked me to talk to you. I leaned back on my couch. And what did you tell them? I said I'd try. Look, man, I know things got heated, but they're our parents. We should help them out. I repeated. That's funny. Where's your $1,200 a month? He shifted uncomfortably. I don't have that kind of money. You've got some money, though. You work. You live rent-free, no bills. Where does your paycheck go? He mumbled. Something about expenses. Danny, I sent them over $36,000 in the last 3 years. You've sent them 0. Actually less then 0 because they pay for everything for you. So when you say we should help them out, what you mean is I should help them out while you continue doing nothing. It's not like that. It's exactly like that. And you know what? I would have kept sending the money. I really would have. But then Mom called me a failure and said you'd never disappoint them like I have. So I decided to give them exactly what they wanted, a son like you. He didn't have an answer for that. He left a few minutes later. I never found out if he actually contributed anything to the household after that. I doubt it. Months. 4 and 5 were quiet. I heard through extended family that my parents were struggling. They'd had to cut back on a lot of stuff. No more cable TV package. No more eating out. Mom was clipping coupons again. Dad was looking at part-time jobs to make ends meet. I didn't feel bad. I probably should have, but I didn't. Every time I thought about helping them, I remembered my mom's face when she called me a failure, how disappointed she looked, how she compared me to Danny and found me lacking. Month 6, my dad got a job at a hardware store, part-time, minimum wage. He was 68 years old, stocking shelves because his retirement wasn't cutting it anymore. My aunt called to tell me this, thinking it would guilt me into helping. Again, he wouldn't have to work if you just send the money like you used to. She said he wouldn't have to work if Danny paid rent and got a full-time job. I replied, there's a 28-year-old fully capable adult living in that house, contributing nothing, but somehow I'm the problem. She didn't have much to say. After that, around month 7, something interesting happened. I got a call from my uncle, Mom's brother. He'd heard the whole story from my parents' side, which I'm sure painted me as the villain. I'm calling because I talked to Danny. He said, kid told me he tried to talk to you, and you basically told him to get lost. That's one version. Here's my version. You're both idiots. Your parents are idiots. This whole family is a mess. I actually laughed. Uncle Jim had always been the blunt one. Your parents had no business asking you for that much money every month. That's their mortgage, their responsibility. But you also shouldn't have just cut them off without warning. They called me a failure. I said, after years of me helping them, they compared me to Danny, who's never helped anyone, including himself. Yeah, I heard. Your mom's an idiot. Always has been when it comes to Danny. Your dad, too. They baby that kid into uselessness. But here's the thing. Your parents are struggling now. Real struggling. And yeah, it's their own damn fault, but they're still your parents. I didn't say anything. I'm not saying go back to sending them $1,200 a month. That was too much, and they were taking advantage. But maybe check in. Talk to them. You made your point. They know they screwed up. Have they apologized? Silence. Then no. Then they don't know they screwed up. They just know they want my money back. Uncle Jim sighed. Probably right about that. Look, I'm not telling you what to do. Just saying that sometimes being right and being happy are two different things. Think about it. He hung up. I did think about it for about 30 seconds. Then I went back to living my life. Month 8, I got an email from my mom. Long, rambling, full of justifications and explanations. The summary was basically, we didn't mean it the way you took it. You're being too sensitive. We're family, and family forgives each other. No actual apology. No acknowledgement that calling me a failure was wrong. No recognition of the 3 years of financial support they'd taken for granted. Just we're family, and you should get over it. I deleted the email. Month 9, my dad had a heart scare. Nothing major, just some chest pain that turned out to be stress and indigestion. But my aunt called me all dramatic, saying I should come to the hospital because families should be there for each other. I sent flowers to the hospital. Nice ones. Expensive arrangement. The card said, hope you feel better soon. That was it. My aunt called me back furious. Flowers? Your father almost died, and you sent flowers? He had indigestion. The doctor confirmed it. That's not the point. Actually, that's exactly the point. If it had been serious, I would have come. But it wasn't. And sending flowers is a perfectly appropriate response to someone being in the hospital for indigestion. She called me heartless and hung up. I added the flower expense too. My spreadsheet under money I couldn't spend while funding their retirement. Month 10, winter holidays came around. First Thanksgiving in 3 years I didn't go to their house. I went to friends. Instead, I had an amazing time, met a girl. There actually, we exchanged numbers. My mom sent me a text on Thanksgiving morning. We're disappointed you won't be here today. Danny's bringing his girlfriend. It would have been nice to have both our sons. Danny had a girlfriend now. Good for him. Maybe she'd get him out of the basement. I doubted it though. I didn't respond to the text. I was too busy having a good time with people who didn't think I was a failure. Month 11, right before the December holidays, my parents showed up at my apartment unannounced. Together, looking rough. My dad had lost weight. My mom looked tired. They asked if they could come in. I almost said no, but curiosity won again. We sat in my living room, all three of us awkward as hell. We wanted to talk to you. My mom started. I'm listening. My dad took over. We've been struggling financially since you stopped helping. We had to refinance the house again just to make ends meet. Dad's working part-time now, but it's not enough. We're behind on bills. I nodded but didn't say anything. We're asking if you'll help us again. My mom said, not the full amount like before, maybe just 500 or 600 a month. Anything would help. What about Danny? I asked. They exchanged a look. Danny's working on some things. My mom said vaguely, he's still in the basement. He's saving money to move out. Is he paying you rent while he saves? Another look between them. That was a no. So Danny's still living there rent-free, working part-time, contributing nothing financially, but somehow I'm supposed to send you $500 a month. We're desperate, my dad said, and I could hear it in his voice. He was actually desperate. This wasn't manipulation. They were genuinely struggling. But here's the thing about being called a failure by someone. It does something to you. Changes how you see them. Changes what you're willing to do for them. I'm sorry you're struggling, I said, and I meant it. But I'm not sending you money. Why not? My mom asked, tears starting. We're your parents. We raised you. You owe us. And there it was, the real heart of it. They thought I owed them. Not because I wanted to help, not because we had a good relationship, but because I owed them for being born and raised. I owe you, I repeated. Let me tell you what I don't owe you. I don't owe you money because you chose to have kids. I don't owe you money because you mismanaged your finances. I don't owe you money because you enabled Danny into uselessness. And I definitely don't owe you money after you called me a failure and told me to be more like my unemployed brother. My mom was full on crying now. We didn't mean that. We were just upset. No, you meant it. You've always meant it. Danny's the good one. I'm the disappointing one who only cares about money. Well, congratulations. You got exactly what you wanted. I care about money now. My money, my savings, my future, my retirement, my life. My dad stood up. You're being cruel. I'm being honest. There's a difference. They left. My mom was sobbing. My dad looked defeated. I felt like garbage for about an hour. Then I remembered the 3 years of $1,200 a month and felt fine again. That was 2 months ago. I haven't heard from them since. The house is still in their name, so I assumed they worked something out. Maybe they actually made Danny contribute. Maybe they downsized. Maybe they found other family to hit up. I don't know, and honestly, I don't care enough to find out. What I do know is that I've paid off all my debt except my student loans. I've got an emergency fund that could sustain me for 6 months. I'm maxing out my 401k contributions. I bought myself a new car. I'm dating that girl I met at Thanksgiving, and it's going really well. I took another vacation last month. I'm living the life I should have been living 3 years ago. The life I would have been living if I hadn't been guilted into funding my parents' retirement while they coddled my brother into permanent adolescence. Sometimes I think about reaching out, calling to see how they're doing, but then I remember my mom's face when she called me a failure. I remember how easily she said it, how she really believed Danny was better despite all the evidence to the contrary. And I remember that I'm not a failure. I'm a success who got tired of being treated like an ATM by people who couldn't even pretend to be grateful. The mortgage company doesn't care about disappointment. They don't care about family dynamics or who's the good son. They care about money, cold, hard, on-time money. Turns out I care about the same thing now. Funny how that works. My money, my choice, my life. And honestly, I've never been happier. Update posted 3 weeks later. A lot of people have asked for an update, so here goes. Things got interesting last week. Got a call from Danny. First time he's contacted me since he came to my apartment almost a year ago. He actually sounded different, less entitled, more tired. We need to talk, he said. About what? Can you just come to the house, please? I thought about saying no, but something in his voice made me curious. So I drove over that Saturday morning. The house looked rough, not falling apart or anything, but you could tell money was tight. The lawn needed work. Paint was chipping in places. Dad's old car wasn't in the driveway, probably at his job at the hardware store. Danny answered the door. He looked different too. Skinnier, older. Like he'd aged 3 years in the past 12 months. We sat in the kitchen, same kitchen where they'd called me a failure. Felt weird being back. So Mom and Dad aren't here. Danny started. Dad's at work. Mom's at her sister's for the weekend. I asked you here because I wanted to talk. Just us. I waited. They're going to lose the house, he said finally. They're 3 months behind on the mortgage. The bank sent a letter about foreclosure proceedings. I didn't say anything. I know what you're thinking, that it's their problem, that they did this to themselves. And you're right, but I'm calling you because I'm finally getting it. I get why you left. That surprised me. You do. Yeah, they've been putting pressure on me since you stopped sending money, asking when I'm going to get a full-time job, when I'm going to help with bills. Mom keeps saying stuff like we wouldn't be in this mess if you'd step up like your brother did. It's been almost a year of this. I actually left. Welcome to my entire life. I know. I'm sorry, Mom. I really, I was so caught up in my own situation that I didn't see what they were doing to you, how they were using you. So, what changed? Danny ran his hand through his hair. Dad sat me down last month, told me I needed to pay rent or move out, said they couldn't afford to support me anymore. We got into this huge fight because I was like, where am I supposed to go? I don't have money saved. And he said, maybe you should have thought about that for the past 6 years. Sounds about right. Yeah, so I've been scrambling. I got a second job. I'm working full-time at the sporting goods store now, plus weekends. At a restaurant. I'm trying to save up to move out, but it's hard. Everything's expensive, and I'm giving them $800 a month for rent now. $800? That's more than I was paying when I lived at home. They need it. They're desperate. The retirement money is basically gone. Dad's job barely covers anything. Mom's talking about getting a job, but she Hasn't worked in like 25 years. Nobody wants to hire her. I processed this. They were really struggling and Danny was finally stepping up. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because I wanted you to know that I finally get it. What you were doing, how much you sacrificed, and how shitty they treated you for it. I'm living it now, and it sucks. You want me to come back and save them? No, Danny said, surprising me. Again, I'm not asking you to send money. I know that ship sailed. I'm just asking if you'll talk to them, help them figure out a plan. You're good with money and budgets and all that. Maybe you can help them see what their options are. He said, they're thinking. My first instinct was to say no and leave, but Danny looked genuinely remorseful, and he was actually working 2 jobs now, actually contributing, actually growing up, even if it took a crisis to make it happen. I'll think about it, I told him. He nodded. That's fair. And man, for what? It's worth, I'm sorry for all of it. For being a leech. For not standing up for you when they called you a failure. For everything. That apology meant more than he probably knew. It was the first real acknowledgement I'd gotten from anyone in my family that they'd been wrong. I left shortly after, drove home, thought about it for a few days, then I made a decision. I called a family meeting, told them all to be there Saturday at 2 p.m. Dad took off work. Mom came back early from her sister's. Danny was already there. We sat in that same living room where this all started. I'm going to say this once I started. I'm not giving you money. That's not why I'm here. But I'll help you figure out a financial plan if you're serious about fixing this. My parents looked at each other. My mom opened her mouth probably to argue or make excuses. Before you say anything, I cut her off. I need to hear something from both of you. I need to hear that you understand why I stopped helping. I need to hear that you get what you did wrong. Silence. Long silence. So long, I thought they weren't going to say anything. Finally, my dad spoke. We took you for granted. We expected you to keep helping without showing appreciation, and we compared you to Danny in a way that was completely unfair. You were carrying us financially, and we treated you like you weren't doing enough. That was wrong. It wasn't eloquent. It wasn't perfect. But it was something. I looked at my mom. She was crying again, but this time felt different. I called you a failure, she said quietly, when you were being anything but. You were the one holding us together, and I told you that you weren't good enough. I meant to hurt you, and I did. I'm sorry. There. It was an actual apology. A year late, but still. Okay, I said. Here's the deal. I'll help you make a budget and figure out your options. I'll look at your finances and tell you what I think you should do, but I'm not giving you money. That bridge is burned. Danny's going to keep paying his $800 a month because he's an adult living in your house, and you're both going to accept that your retirement plans need serious adjustment. They agreed. We spent the next 3 hours going through their finals. It was worse than I thought. They'd been living beyond their means for years, even before I started helping. The refinancing had maxed out their home equity. They had credit card debt I didn't even know about. Medical bills from Dad's heart scare that insurance only partially covered. I laid it out straight. They had 3 options. 1, sell the house, use the equity to pay off debts, and downsize to something affordable, maybe a small condo or apartment. 2, get a roommate. They had a spare bedroom rented out for extra income. It wouldn't cover everything, but it would help. 3, both get part-time jobs, and Danny keeps paying rent while also saving to move out as fast as possible. Cut every possible expense. No cable, no eating out, no extras of any kind. Survive until they could get stable. None of these were fun options. All of them required sacrifice and change, but those were the only realistic paths forward. They chose option 3 for now, with option 1 as a backup if things didn't improve in 6 months. Since then, things have been different. My mom got a part-time job at a grocery store. My dad's still at the hardware store. Danny's working his 2 jobs and actually saved enough to move into an apartment with a roommate next month. We're not exactly close. I don't go to Sunday dinners. I don't call twice a week, but we're civil. We text occasionally. I'm not carrying them anymore, but I'm not completely cut off either. They're figuring it out slowly, painfully, but they're doing it. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.